Hi, it's Andrea Bleck again. I'm back with another podcast. I'm really excited about today's episode. It's all about goals. And the reason I am doing this episode is because I have noticed that a lot of people, myself included, when we set goals, we set them the wrong way. And we unintentionally set ourselves up for failure instead of success. And so I've done a lot of thinking, a lot of research, a lot of trial and error with goals. And I have come up with 5 most common mistakes that I see people make when setting goals. So we'll get into that. And then after that, I'll talk about how we can tweak the way that we set goals and the way that we go about accomplishing them so that we can set ourselves up for success instead of failure. My degree was in nutrition and dietetics. So naturally, when you're trying to help someone lose weight or achieve a nutrition or exercise goal, you have to know how to make a goal properly. So a lot of my education was about how to make a goal. But for some reason, even while I had that education, I still would do it the wrong way for myself. And I don't know why I would torture myself like that, but I would continue to set goals the wrong way. And then when I would inevitably fail, I would get so down on myself and think I was a failure. I wasn't good enough. I would give up and then start over again and again, but setting the goals the same old way. And I see a lot of people doing this. Either they give up after they fail because they think that they're not worthy of this success or they can't achieve it, or they keep trying again and again, restarting, but still can't achieve it because the way that they set up their goal, it's not possible to achieve. So let's get into the 5 most common mistakes I see people make, myself included, when setting goals. Number 1, the goal that we set is too hard to achieve. So let's use weight loss as an example because it's a really common goal. So say that your goal is to lose 60 pounds in 2 months. That is a really big goal. It's very difficult to achieve. A lot of times it's not even healthy to achieve that much, to lose that much weight in that amount of time. And I see people do this a lot. We set such a high goal that it's either impossible to reach, almost impossible to reach, or it's so hard to reach that it's not realistic in real life. And we do this to ourselves, and it just sets us up for failure. So if you set your goal way too high to something completely unrealistic or unhealthy, and when you don't reach that goal, or you are making progress, so say you are losing weight, but you know that you're not going to get to 60 pounds of weight loss in 2 months, so you're not going to reach your goal. Even if you're making progress, you can get down on yourself because you're not achieving that standard. You're not reaching that standard, that super high standard that you set for yourself for some reason. So number 1 mistake, we set our goals too high. So goals should be difficult because we also don't want them to be too easy. We want them to be difficult to challenge ourselves, to push ourselves to do better, to improve, but we still want them to be attainable so that we can actually reach them. So I tend to see people make goals that are too difficult rather than too easy, but we need, on the scale of easy to difficult, we probably want it somewhere here so that it's not so easy that you don't really push yourself and see really good results. You can do better, but it's not so difficult that it's just impossible to reach, and then you fail and get so down on yourself. So you want it like maybe a little higher than in between, like the middle point. So you want it to push you, but not so hard that it's impossible. So the second mistake I see people make when setting goals is that their goal isn't specific enough. So say back to the weight loss example. Say your goal is, I want to lose weight. Okay, that's really good, but it's important for us to attach something measurable to a goal. I want to lose 10 pounds in 2 months. That's way more attainable, and it's specific so that you're not just like going through each day thinking, I don't know what I'm trying to achieve, but I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to lose weight. I don't know how much. Or you want to save money, or make a certain amount of money. My goal is to make more money. Okay, well, how much more? Because if we need to know what the amount is in order to know how to get there. If you don't know what you're working towards exactly, it's kind of hard to make any progress. So we need them to be specific, measurable, attach a number to it. The third mistake I see people make when setting goals is that they make a goal, and the goal could be really good. It could be a good level of difficulty, and it could be specific. So we'll go with the same example. I would like to lose 10 pounds in 2 months. Okay. But then they make that goal and they stop there. So there's no plan in between where they are now and where they want to be. You have this goal. It could be a good goal, but that's all you got. You kind of need to know how you're going to get there. And I would do this to myself too. I would be like, this is a great goal. This is my goal, and I'm going to get there. But then kind of just floundering in between, like daily, you need to know what you're doing in order to reach your end goal. So that's the third mistake I see people make. The fourth one is kind of the opposite. They make way too many goals, and it's very overwhelming. And it gets to the point where it's so stressful that people want to quit. So, for example, take someone with the weight loss example. Say it's January 1st, as it commonly is when people make all these new goals for their health. This whole year before, we were not focusing on healthy habits, weren't really doing much physical activity, gained a lot of weight. So starting January 1st, this is what I'm going to do. My goal by the end of 2 months is to lose 10 pounds. I'm also going to cut out sweets completely, cut out caffeine completely. I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I am going to cut my salt craving, no snacks, just 3 meals a day, no snacks. And I'm going to do intermittent fasting as well a couple times a week. And you see, like, we kind of start to snowball and make all of these goals. So you go from having absolutely no progress towards weight loss to here are all of these things I'm going to do. So you go from doing nothing to all of the things. And it may sound good in your head. It certainly looks good on paper because it's like, look at this. Look at all these goals. Look at all these things I'm going to do. I am going to look so good and lose so much weight. But in reality, when you try to apply it to real life, it's too many things at once. And we get stressed, we get overwhelmed. We're still trying to live our everyday lives. We're still going to school or going to work or, taking care of kids. There's all of these daily stresses, and you have all of these goals, but it's too much. So it's too much of a change, too fast, and we tend to get overwhelmed, and a lot of us will give up. And I don't blame us for giving up because it's just too much. But when we do give up, a lot of us still tend to blame ourselves for not reaching the goal because we're not good enough, because we didn't try hard enough. We don't really understand that the reason we failed is because we set ourselves up for failure because we made the goal too impossible. It's not because we aren't good enough. It's because of the way we went about trying to reach our goal. So that's a huge thing I see. People going from 0 to 100, that, I'm going to start doing all of these things when a day ago I was doing none of these things. It's really hard to stick to. We're humans, we're not robots. So we need to be more kinder to ourselves and more realistic. And then the fifth mistake I see kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, which is people quit because they have this all or nothing mindset. And once they make one little mistake, since they didn't do it perfectly, they just ruin all chances of reaching their goal. So say you make a good goal, like this 10 pounds of weight loss in 2 months. It's specific, it's difficult but attainable. You make your goal of, 10 pounds in 2 months, and you also have steps in between for what you're going to do to reach your goal, so you're not just floundering. And you aren't making too many goals. You have a good amount. So you have all the other things in place. However, say that one of your goals is to eat no more than like 800 calories a day, and you eat 1,900, 2,000 calories one day, and you think, oh no, I'm screwed. I went over my limit. I might as well just eat everything in sight because it's ruined anyway. So it's this all or nothing concept that a lot of us have. In reality, if you just take yourself away from the situation, which I've had to teach myself to do, you've only gone over your calorie limit by 200 calories maybe. Even if it was 500 calories, that's not a huge deal. You don't have to completely ruin everything and then end up eating like 4,000 calories because, you already failed. So why not just eat everything you can? And why bother work out because I already ate too much? So this concept we have where we have to be perfect, we have to do all the things right, or it's just going to be nothing. So I've done this to myself a lot. I know a lot of people who have this mindset and have done this too, not just with food or exercise, but with anything. And there was a good analogy that I heard one time that said, if you got a little tiny crack on your phone, even if it were not in the middle of the screen, but like in the corner where it doesn't really matter, if you got a little crack in your phone, would you just whip it at the ground and just shatter it completely? No. So if you make a little mistake, eat a little too much, spend a little too much money, whatever your goal is, if you mess it up a little bit, why mess it up way more? You can still reach your goal if you go over your calorie limit one day by a couple hundred calories. It's not the end of the world. You can, work it off, do a little more exercise. If you have like a spending goal and you go over it a little bit, you spend over your budget a little bit. Oh, I already went over my budget by $20. I might as well just blow $200. It doesn't have to be like that. Why does Siri always think I'm talking to her? So I kind of, when I heard that analogy of if you had a little scratch or a little crack on your phone, would you just break the entire screen because you had a little crack? No, you would try to do your best to keep it at just that little crack in the screen. So I think we need to take that mindset to when we are trying to achieve a goal. If we mess up a little bit, let's just take a step back, forgive ourselves, acknowledge that it happened, but it's not the end of the world and you still can reach your goal. So, in summary, those are the 5 common mistakes I see people make when setting and trying to accomplish their goals. They make them too hard. They make their goals not specific enough. They make their end goal but have no steps planned of what they're going to do in between in order to reach their goal. They make too many goals and get overwhelmed and have the all or nothing mindset and quit when they just make one little mistake and they just ruin it for themselves. And so, like in the case of losing weight, I would do this to myself. I would also set really impossible goals so that when I did fail them, I would be like, okay, I ate way too many calories. I'm just going to eat all day long, not work out, whatever. Probably ended up eating like 5,000 calories. And then would say, all right, well, I give up. And then I would come back to it a little while later and say, okay, I'm going to start again. Here are the goals again. And it's the same thing, same impossible goal. And so when I would inevitably fail it because I had no self-control or I wasn't good enough, then I would just completely fall off the wagon and eat everything in sight again and then feel guilty about it again. So people either quit and never return to wanting to, work on this area of their life again. They just think, okay, I failed. I'm just meant to be this weight. Or they keep starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And it's just this vicious cycle that it's going to keep being that vicious cycle if we keep setting the goals the same way and thinking it's our fault that we can't achieve these goals. So, what we need to do is change the way that we set goals. I have been setting goals from outside in. So I set different goals for different amounts of time, and I start with the longest, farthest out goal. So there are many different categories of goals in life. You can have personal, professional, financial, health, passion, or hobby goals. So I'll take one of my goals, for example. This is real. I just set these goals very recently because I was feeling stuck. And that was part of my motivation to do this podcast because I was like, I'm stuck. I'm at a dead end. I'm not reaching my goals. And then I was like, I'm doing it again. I am setting these crazy goals and failing, of course, because of the goal I set, not because I'm not good enough. So my passion goal has to do with Spanish. I just love Spanish. I've been teaching myself for years. It got a little bit lost in between having kids, you know, but I still have this passion and I want to become an interpreter. So I guess it's more of a passion / professional goal because it could turn out as a career. So first I set the farthest out goal. My farthest out goal is 1 year, a 1-year goal. In 1 year, I want to be a certified interpreter. Okay, that's great. But we can't just stop there, which is what I was doing. I was making these goals. Okay, I'm going to be interpreter and I'm going to be certified interpreter in this amount of time. Excellent. Here we go. And then I was doing things that were, related to becoming an interpreter, but I had no set plan. Okay, so we've got the farthest out goal, 1 year, certified interpreter. What is my 6-month goal though? So in 6 months, I want to be a medically certified interpreter. So that's a little bit different because it's based on just medical terminology. So it's easier than being like a general certified interpreter because the medical certification just has to do with medical terminology. So it's not as all-encompassing. Okay, so that's my 6-month goal. Great. Now, what is my 3-month goal? So going even shorter term. To be able to speak very fluently with limited pauses in speaking and being able to comprehend everything or close to everything that a native speaker is saying without having to ask them to repeat it or without stumbling and just taking a bunch of time to answer. So that's my idea of being fluent. Fluent is kind of a broad term and it could vary from person to person. My idea of fluency is being able to speak with limited pauses like I do in my own native language and being able to comprehend what native Spanish speakers are saying at their normal velocity without having to ask them to repeat it. So that's my 3-month goal. Now, what's my 1-month goal? My shortest term goal is to find a Spanish buddy. So someone that I can speak with on a daily or every other day basis. And their native language is Spanish and I just, practice with them. I talk to them. It's real life stuff. It's not forced conversations. It's not just like looking things up on the internet. It's not watching a show, which all that is great. But I think what would be life-changing for me in regards to this overall goal of becoming an interpreter is to get a friend that speaks Spanish that I talk to all the time, and they know that is my goal and they're supportive, and maybe I could also help them at the same time. We have a conversation in Spanish and then afterwards have a conversation in English to help them with their English. So this is a thing that people do, and I've, had people offer to do this. I did this with a couple of native Spanish speakers a few years ago, but again, I was pregnant and then had kids and it got lost in the sauce. So this is something I need to do. So I'll go through that again. I started off with my longest goal, my main end goal is to become a certified interpreter. I want to do that in a year. My 6-month goal is to get my medical interpreting certification. My 3-month goal is to have my level of fluency that I want. My 1-month goal is to find a Spanish-speaking buddy. So each milestone, each goal helps you reach your overall goal. Once I get a Spanish-speaking buddy within a month, that will really help me get to my 3-month goal, which is to speak very fluently. which will help me get to my 6-month goal, which is get the medical certification, which will help me get to my 1-year goal to become a certified interpreter, all encompassing. So now we can break those down into daily things. What do I need to do to reach my 1-month goal? Well, in order to obtain a Spanish-speaking buddy, I need to reach out to people that I know are native speakers. I need to put myself out there and explain what my goal is and see if anyone would like to help. I need to be brave enough to do this, and not just brave enough, but I'm a person who doesn't like to ask for help. But sometimes we just have to. And how can I help them as well? Maybe they want to work on their English. So I need to put myself out there in order to be able to have conversations with my Spanish-speaking buddy. I need to prepare. So I need to study. I need to always be studying, watching Spanish shows. I need to write in Spanish, read in Spanish, think in Spanish, speak Spanish, even just around the house to myself. I need to speak it. Something that I've been meaning to do, but I start doing it and then I stop, is translate what I say to somebody. Like, say I'm speaking with my husband, translate what I'm saying in English to Spanish just to practice that. And then he'll respond in English because he doesn't know Spanish. And then I will take what he said in English and translate it to Spanish. So even though he doesn't speak Spanish and I can't practice that component of hearing a Spanish speaker, I can practice the other components. So I start doing this and he's all for it and all supportive, but then I just stop. I'm like, why? Because one, I don't want to bother people, even though I know it's not. They said it's not going to bother them. Okay. Also, it takes a lot of work and intentionality. You have to remind yourself to do it. It has to become a habit. Once I do this for probably like half a day, if I keep doing it, it'll just be a habit. Every time he says something, I'll translate it to Spanish. And then I'll answer in English and Spanish. So it has to be something that is difficult, that will push you to the next level, but it has to become a habit so that you don't even have to think about it. So I do all of these things. I, study all the time. I speak it more. I find my Spanish buddy. And then what do I have to do daily or weekly with this Spanish buddy in order to reach my next goal, which is to speak very fluently with limited pauses and being able to understand most of what they're saying? Well, I need to talk to them this many times a week for this many hours. I need to talk about a different variety of things, not just one subject. What about sports? I need to brush up on my sports vocabulary because there's different vocabulary for each topic. So then, okay, these are the things I need to do daily or weekly in order to accomplish my 3-month goal to speak fluently. Okay. Once I can speak fluently, I need to make sure that in order to reach my next goal to become a medical certified interpreter, I need to be able to speak in these medical terms. So maybe I can make sure my Spanish buddy and I talk about medical stuff. I can research medical terminology. I can do practice tests. And then I take the medical certification test. Okay, now I have 6 more months until I take my interpreting test to become a certified interpreter. So I'm still going to have to do these daily things like speaking in Spanish, reading in Spanish, writing in Spanish, watching shows in Spanish. I'm still going to have to use my Spanish buddy that I obtained as my 1-month goal. I'm still going to, need to speak fluently, which was my 3-month goal. I can still use my medical certification, which was my 6-month goal, because that helps. It's a test I had to take, so I have a little bit of experience in that, in certification tests. And it's also more knowledge that I have for my overall interpretation certification test. So each goal, each milestone is going to help push you and snowball you to the next one. So I think it's really important to set up your goals, break them down in increments like this. And after, say, 30 days, I recommend going back. Well, first, I recommend logging what you're doing. I like to do this just because I like to write stuff down, but also because it's good to look back at what you did. So after 30 days, say I reach my goal, I got my Spanish buddy. I reach my goal and I look back at the 30 days. Okay, what did I do each day? What was helpful? What was distracting? Did I, even things that aren't related to my goal? What did I do during this week? Because I feel like this week I didn't make much progress. Well, I watched a lot of TV in English. Or I didn't wake up as early to study. Or I just didn't read in Spanish at all. I forgot to speak Spanish around the house. So the things that you wrote down that you were doing and the time spent doing them, you can reflect back on them and see, okay, this was not helpful. This actually really distracted me. Or this was really helpful. I need to do more of this. Say you, for some reason, don't reach your 1 month goal. Now it's even more important to know what you spent your time doing the last 30 days so you can see why you didn't reach that 1 month goal. So it's really important to keep this log of what you're doing and how much time you're spending doing it. You can even color code it. So that's my plan when I start to work on these goals, which is soon. I just kind of wrote out this breakdown of my goals, so I'm going to start implementing them soon. Once I start logging what I'm doing every day, I'm going to color code it. Okay, maybe watching Spanish shows, that will be in orange. Reading Spanish, that can be blue. Writing Spanish, that can be, green. Speaking Spanish around the house, that will be yellow. Thinking in Spanish, that will be gray. So you can highlight them, you can circle them in certain colors. So I'll log what I'm doing every day and then color code each thing I'm doing. And when I look back over, oh my goodness, Siri. When I look back over my last 30 days, if I see a whole lot of one color and none of the other colors, I can think, oh, well, that's not good. It's really good that I wrote a lot in Spanish, but I didn't speak it. So if I want to be an interpreter, I should probably practice speaking in Spanish. I can't just write in it. I can't just, write down what I need to say and then show the person I'm interpreting for. I need to be able to speak it. So then you can see oh, I had a good balance of all the colors. So that is probably why I reached my goal. Or if I didn't reach my goal, it's because there's a whole lot of this and not a whole lot of that. So I think visualizing it, seeing it on paper is super important. I really recommend writing it down every single day, what you're doing. Obviously, you don't have to be working on your goal every single day. You can take breaks, are extremely important too. But maybe 5 days a week, log what you're doing. So this, I think, is key to creating realistic goals that are still going to push you towards reaching a higher level. And making your goals this way, writing them down, making them visual is super helpful, because if it's just in your mind, it's easy to forget. It's easy to get jumbled up. And if it's not written down, it's easy to be like, oh, well, no one will know. No one will know. It wasn't written down. I didn't say it out loud. It was just in my head. Like, I thought I was making a goal to lose this amount of weight by this amount of time, but I didn't write it down, so it didn't really happen. It's fine. And it's just easier to kind of blow it off and give up if it's not written down. You can even have it in front of you in your room, like post it on the wall, make a colorful board, some nice construction paper. I used to do that, like bright colors, write out your goals, make it really visual, make it always there so that you can't forget it and you can't just easily say, that's okay. I won't, it's getting hard. I don't really want to do this goal anymore. It's harder to stop trying if it's like surrounding you, if you can see it. And the last part that's really important is to visualize what it will look like when you reach your goal. So this is huge. It kind of is like meditating, and I don't think I'm really good at meditating, but I've been trying to find a quiet space in my mind and just picture myself reaching my goal. So how will it look like to pass the certification test and be a real professional, legitimate certified interpreter? That's going to feel freaking awesome. So whatever your goal is, whatever the end game is for you, just picture it happening in your mind, and you'll get an emotional attachment to it so that it's harder to give up on your goals, because you want to feel that feeling. If you can kind of imagine what it would feel like and get excited about it, just imagine what it would feel like if it really did happen. So just keep that in mind. That visualization, if you do it daily, it really helps you stay motivated, because it's really easy to be motivated in the beginning. We all know that. But when that initial motivation wears off, you need something to keep you going. So you need that visualization, and you also need to turn things into habits so that you do them without thinking, which is why you need to do things daily that will lead you to reaching your goals so that they become second nature. So I hope that you were able to take something useful away from this episode. I am very excited to use this technique and apply it to my own life. I think it's going to be really beneficial. I would love to hear your feedback, and if you have any questions, I would love to hear those as well. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and whatever your goal is, write it down, visualize reaching your goal, write down real steps you're going to take to reach your goal, break it down, and I think you're going to be on your way to reaching every goal, as long as you take these steps, because these steps are realistic, and for some reason, we as humans like to set unrealistic standards for ourselves. And then when we don't reach them, we get so down on ourselves, and that's never going to end up well. So let's try to change our mindset, change the way we do this. I'll do it right along with you, because if we keep doing the same thing over and over and keep getting the same result, why don't we switch it up a little bit? Try something different. All right. I hope you guys have great success with this. Please give me your feedback. I would love it if you could subscribe to my channel, and I'll be coming out with new episodes shortly. Thanks.